welcome everyone. We are restarting Moya Talks with our first Hispanic Heritage talk. And we decided to ask Federico Olivera-Sala, principal and architect at Moya Design Partners, to join us for this talk and talk about his background, his life in the US, and his relation to Hispanic Heritage Month. Thank you very much, Federico.
Thank you. And I think I already said this before you joined. Full disclosure, if you send me the questions, I haven't seen them.
No, I haven't.
Okay.
The questions, and Paula knows why.
Okay, that's so cool. I'm just saying that it's going to be very, I would say, what's the word?
Freestyle.
Genuine, my reaction to the questions. Let's put it that way.
Don't worry. It's going to be easy. Fede, can you tell us a little bit about your background?
My background, like everything, like, well, I don't know. I can say my background from like family. My parents are from Argentina, both. Obviously, my mother is daughter of a French. My grandmother was French, and my dad is like 7 generations from Argentina. So I'm like half-breed Argentinian and French. My dad is a doctor. He's old now, and my mom, she worked like million things. She was like a fashion designer. She has her own line of clothing, but also worked as a notary. So it's like weird. She's a very entrepreneur, and she can sell ice to Eskimos. She's incredible. Yeah, she's like, it's a say in my country. If you can sell ice to an Eskimo, I mean, you can sell anything. So she's like, that's something that I don't know how to do, sell stuff, but it's okay. I pretty much did all my education in Argentina. I knew that I wanted to be an architect in like really early age. And I think it was like 4th or 5th grade. My uncle, he was an architect. And the only thing I can see in him, he was like the most prestigious, dapper guy I ever knew. So I thought that was being an architect, like being sharp, and he was like always like incredibly nicely dressed, and I don't know, that kind of like made me pay attention to what he was like. Is it like maybe being an architect is just being a guy like this? So that's kind of so that's basically where my interest in architecture grew. And obviously I always liked drawing. So so that's how I developed my passion for architecture. I studied architecture in Argentina, graduated in '94, long time ago. And I started with my wife, Christina, our own practice there. And I mean, we have had a good ride for about 6 years. But then the economy in my country went to the toilet. Like in 2000, we had an incredible economic crash. But
Corralito.
Yeah, and the Corralito was basically they were seizing the government was seizing or freezing everybody's account, so you couldn't take money out. Luckily, we left right before that. Otherwise, we could have not come because all our savings were there. So we left to start again here. And obviously, we arrived to New York, obviously thinking that we would live in New York. That was our ideal. Architects, that's the coolest thing to be in New York. But obviously, New York is a very expensive city. And we arrived probably the day that was the coolest, heaviest blizzard New York ever had. That's the day we arrived. So that was basically our debut in New York. It was horrible. we would not look at our face with my wife and say, "Oh man, we really screwed this up." We didn't know where we're gonna sleep that night, basically. But we were just determined because we decided to leave Argentina like in a brink. It was like we decided this day, the next day we flew. That's how we did it. It's like ripping a band-aid. We don't want to have a, a, a long period. So when we arrived, it was tough. But things worked out. I mean, we had a friend that we called, and he says, "Yeah, I don't have anything in my house. We just moved like 6 months ago here in New York. We're struggling. We don't have anything, but half of what we don't have is yours." That's how they received us. So we stayed there for a week, and I was like doing interviews. And then I decided to come to Washington. That a friend of mine was living here. I mean, it was not a friend of mine. It was Pablo. Everybody knows. It was a great friend of mine, and he was living here, and I did an interview at my previous firm, and I started working there. And I worked there for 19 years till I came to Moya.
Thank you very
And I
much.
think the Moya history, you guys know what I do here. So that's very quick in a nutshell what my background is.
Well, you covered my first 4 questions with your background, so now I can move to my fifth question. How do you see the Hispanic community influence in the US? Since you arrived, what evolution have you seen?
Um, to me, it was like an eye opener because typically, I don't know, if I was in Argentina, I would not talk to, let's say, it's not that I wouldn't talk, but just make up conversation with the lady that it's the cashier register, just because. Like, but here, when you come here, you don't have any friends, and the majority of the workers are Latinos. So you start talking to everybody, and you just make conversation. So is a very welcoming culture. The Latino culture is a very receiving, but also in a not friendship, but more like family way. I don't know how to express it, but it's very welcoming.
There is a sense of
And
community.
yeah, there is a huge sense of community, and I totally embrace that because um, it's very important when you're here alone to have a a place where you can scratch your back, basically. And that's the community that they know what you're going through, what I mean, because you built on their experience as well. They may have tips that you don't know. So like all of a sudden you inherit a wealth of knowledge and how to survive in the US by joining those kind of groups. And we did the same thing with other friends came over. We just immediately lure them in and make them friends with everybody in our small group, and then you just inherit the family all together at once. And that's very helpful when you immigrate. It's really helpful. Feel like you are at home, but not at home, kind of thing.
As an immigrant, I concur with you. It's very important to build a network and then share it with people who come after you.
Yeah, it's
So
it's
you,
easy. It's easy now to my friends that come. It wasn't easy in the beginning because you had to build that group. But then now,
yeah.
everyone that comes, it just inherits like 15 different families that are all part of our group. So it's much easier now.
Is there a big Argentinian diaspora in Maryland and DC?
A peak?
A big diaspora, a
Ah,
large
big.
diaspora of Argentinians.
A large. Okay, big. No, peak. Okay. Um, I think I'm not sure. Well, it's two different things. There's here there are like 2, 3 international organizations like IDB Bank, the World Bank. the Pan American Health Institute, health organization, that they conglomerate all Latin-speaking countries, with exceptions of some other countries that are members. Like I think the IDB gets Japan and US. So there's a lot of Argentine and everybody from every other South American country that want to work in those organizations. It's very common. So for that, there is a diaspora for those types of organizations. And there's a second diaspora that is sort of the effect of that corralito, that economic crisis that we had. And we are all over the US. I mean, you go to Miami and we are a plague. It's like incredible. We are known to be hard workers and to find the way how to survive. We are known for that. So when I came here, if I was not working as an architect, I would just do whatever it takes to survive. I was thinking of I'm gonna do like wash dishes if I don't get hired for an architect firm, but it turned out pretty good. So you have to take a risk.
You and Christina have raised a family in the US. How do you keep the traditions and the heritage there? How difficult it is to maintain the language, the connections?
Well, yeah, I think you had to do it for, I can think like really quick 2 reasons. One is because I don't want my kids to lose their connection to grandparents and cousins and aunts and whatever. That's to me very important. Neither my mom nor my dad or my sister or my wife's brother or my wife's mother speak English at all, 0. So you cannot have a grandmother that you cannot speak to. It's like, to me, it's unforgivable. That's one of the reasons. The other one is they don't really know how important it is to speak 2 languages, at least 2 languages. Is incredibly important. What you don't learn as a kid, you pay for it as an adult. And when you say I pay it, you pay with money, literally, and also you have this accent that I have, which is some way of paying. I mean, it gives flavor to the English, but you also you have your label that you're not from here, which I carry it proudly, but people may not like it. But
let me interrupt you there. Because it's a good remark you make. Because yes, we do have an accent, but who doesn't in the US?
Yeah, but I think it's understood
really easy
that
to label.
Yeah, but even in my country, we do have accents depending on what state or province you live. Same thing in the US. I mean, you go from the South or you go to California, you go to New York, everybody has an accent. But I think I would say coming from a different country, it's like a different level. And in some cases, you are looked down just to have that accent, which is different than having an accent from being from the South or from New York or from whatever, because you're seen as equal. And as I said, I carry my heritage with pride because I think it's important, and I think that making it here in the U.S. has a I don't know how to say the word. It's a challenge, but also it's if you make it here, I think it's you have like some sort of meaning of arrival into a culture in a way. I don't know.
You made it, you accomplished it.
Yeah, as an accomplishment. Yes.
Excellent. Now, you came to the US 20 years ago. 22, because you came to the Corralito before the Corralito.
Yeah, we came in 2000.
2000, right before the coronavirus. How has communication changed in that period of time? And I ask you, I came here 20 years ago too, and I remember my first few years, you lost friends because you couldn't keep in touch with them so far away. And now everything has changed. So how is it for your kids to communicate with family, with
That's a pretty amazing because we lived through that change. I mean, before it's not that we were writing letters and just putting into a bird that would fly over the seas, but I mean, just making a phone call was very expensive. Cell phones was, I mean, we had cell phones, but it was somewhat a luxury at the beginning. But just making international calls was like you had to make a list of everything that you want to say so you don't miss anything. You just condense everything, just chat with your parents. Obviously, looking at their faces like, what? No, you will send a picture on the mail.
yeah.
So that just seeing that changes, it was incredible. Now I'm like up to date with everything that is going on with my friends there. We have like 10 million different group chats. The same my kids. My kids are in contact with their cousins, and like my son now, he was working as a summer intern and he collected some money and says, I'm gonna go to Argentina for a month. So he's going by himself. So he's now connecting with all his cousins and making plans. And I mean, he's like he's there with them now. If he gets there, he was like, yeah, I'm always been here.
And what's the feedback from and to those communication channels between the US and Latin America or Argentina in your case? How does that change the way you think about things, the way your kids are going to work in the future?
That's an interesting question. I'm I obviously when I see myself and my kids, they are like completely different how we use technology. I certainly I'm on an older generation, and as much as I'm trying to keep up, sometimes it overwhelms me the way that the technology works. So they are more savvy in all that. They can do everything with their phone, and see, even though I know that I can do everything by phone, I'd rather sit and do it in my computer where everything is bigger, faster, easier, and I can look at things before I hit send. I mean, when I try to send an email on my phone, even though I do it all the time, I'm always had the fear that I'm gonna either misspell something because it's so tiny, or those little keys, and so and they are built that way. Everything is through their phone. They're barely use the computer uh, just to do homework sometimes. Everything is on their phone. It's like unbelievable. It's like, it's, I don't know. It's different. It's different.
Okay, let's talk asados, football, and mate. What do you miss the most?
So which one is the first one? I didn't hear.
Asados,
Asados. Okay.
football, and mate. What do you miss the most from Argentina?
What do I miss the most? Well,
Yeah.
basically, I don't miss anything because I have everything here. So asados, everybody knows that what asado is a barbecue. In Argentina, we barbecue everything. So, so we do that all the time. Even in winter, we do asados. So mate, I used to drink a lot more. Mate is like and I can run to the kitchen to get one, but I'll show it to you. It's basically it's like a green tea that we just put like crushed leaves on a pot, and then we have like a silver straw, and then you pour hot water there, and then you sip on it. But it's not just to drink it alone. Ideally, it's to like a group of friends and you pass along. It's it's a germ sharing device if you look at it from the American way, but that's how you you are stronger. If you are exposed to germs, your immune system grows stronger. So I don't miss that as well. I should drink more. It's a very healthy drink. It's good for digestive system. It keeps you awake. Has more caffeine than coffee. So, but it gives you heartburn too. So I had to kind of pace yourself. And soccer, there are not enough hours of the day to watch soccer. You have to work sometimes. But you will see once the World Cup starts, there will be block times that I will not respond to anything. So you will see that. Yeah, soccer is. I mean, who doesn't like soccer? I don't know.
Is it good in the States, in your opinion? Has it gotten better?
It's getting better, but what is lacking is and I think it's lacking in all American sports, is the enthusiastic fans. They go to see games, whether it's basketball, baseball, whatever sport you name it. I think they go more for the event of going than actually watching the game. So I've seen in games here in the US, people drinking beer like this, and the game is behind them. So it's like weird. I mean, I respect that, but it's weird. It's not just the sport, is the social event.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't see him as enthusiastic watching the game, unless you are like a die-core fan, which I know they are, that they go like crazy nuts and yelling at games. But it's not the whole thing. You go to a soccer game in Argentina, I mean, you could get killed, but people are wild, crazy supporting teams.
But I'm going to open the floor because I know some people here would like to ask you questions. So let's go ahead. Please, Nor, go ahead.
As usual, the first person to ask. So, Fede, now that you have lived in the US for 20 years and you have your kids, if the economic, issue didn't happen in Argentina, would you want to go back and live there? Like, would you go back in time and stay there? I know you guys, did this overnight, and this is something that all of us, my family did too. But my question is, would it have been better if you stayed there if nothing happened, in your opinion?
It's a really hard question to ask, because going back in time, I really don't know. I think being here gave me the opportunity to provide for my kids a better future. I truly believe that. It would have been much harder for my kids to be or study what they love in Argentina. Even though I studied what I loved in Argentina, I felt that I was kicked out of my country because I couldn't do what I love. So it's not that I resent my country. I love my country.
I know, yeah.
I wish that this never happened, but now I have the feeling that my kids are better off here. If they decide to go back to Argentina to live there, I will support them.
Mm-hmm.
But I know friends of mine that study careers that here they will be like super well off. Here in the US, if you are a doctor, you don't have to worry about it. One of my best friends, he had to work like 3 jobs, and he's a doctor.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So now, luckily, he's the doctor of the Argentinian soccer team, the national soccer team for the women. So he's in a much better position. But he's my age. We were like elementary school friends. I mean, we did all elementary, middle, and high school together. And he's now in a position that is somewhat okay, but I mean, he's with the water like here, not that he's like well off. And his wife is also a doctor, which is like blows my mind. Here he will have like one summer beach house, will have like living the life. And so it's tough. So
Spending summers in Matos Vineyard.
yeah. So it's not easy response, but I think I will not go back. As a vacation, yes. I love my parents. I love my friends.
Okay, so following up with this, do you think that we have a responsibility towards our countries as immigrants?
I do.
As emigrants in this case?
Yeah, I'm always thinking how we can help. And every time I say, if I ever win the lottery, I know how to spend that money. But one of the things that I always had in my mind is to create, I mean, thinking because I do multifamily residential, just doing a building that I can host for free kids that can live there to study in the US with all the tuition paid. So if I can do like a foundation that I can do like basically like a college dorm building that all the kids from Argentina, maybe from other countries too, that can live there and study in the university of their liking with everything paid. That's kind of what I thought that I could do, because this is not only helping but giving them a projection, a future that it could be developed here or back home or some other country. But just being exposed to different cultures in a higher ed, I think it's important, which is something that I do not have. That I wish I wanted to do a master's here, but obviously I didn't have the money when I was right out of college. So
this is the moment where we put the banner under the video with the number where you can call, right? You have donations for the Federico Olivera-Sala Foundation.
Once I hit the lottery or the Mega Million, I'll do it.
Excellent. This has been brilliant. We really appreciate your time and everybody's time for just dropping in and listening to Fede. And thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It was my pleasure. It was easy.
Thank you, Fede.
Thank you,
Fede.
Thanks, Fede.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
See you next week.
Gracias,
Thank you,
Fede.
Fede.
Thank you.